What up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL week number 15 betting preview. We're going to talk about our favorite sides, totals, teasers, moneyline dogs, and of course, crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuck. What is going on? Congrats for another great week, and I think you overtook me either for the first time since like week 1 or 2, or the first time all year. But you're officially back.
Yeah, another good week. But who cares? We're on the next week. I will say last week was one of the craziest NFL weeks I can ever remember. I'll summarize a couple of stats here. Mahomes was 46-2 when opponents didn't reach 21 points, lost. Wallace walk-off punt return for the Ravens. Never returned a punt in the NFL before last week. Titans first ever team to be down 14 with less than 2:55 to go and win outright in regulation. NFL teams scoring 3 or fewer points since 2008 were 255-2 before the Vikings. Steelers first team over 500 to lose back-to-back games to teams at least 8 games under 500. Unders had hit 34 straight when scoreless at the half before the Jets-Texans game. I unfortunately had that under. The Jets get 3 field goals on -8 yards after fourth down misses in their own territory. That was brutal. Zach Wilson and Tommy DeVito, AFC and NFC Players of the Week. QBs to win a game last week. Wilson, DeVito, Levis, Zappi, Browning, Flacco, and Mullins. Crazy week. Capped off by, I went to Cleveland and I saw Joe Flacco win me more money in that stadium, playing for the Browns. Then heard all my Browns fans argue over whether Flacco is better than Watson. One's a 38-year-old guy they signed off the street for the league min. The other guy they gave hundreds of millions of dollars to, which was pretty funny. But yeah, we're on the next week. But I will say, where results do matter, I know a lot of people follow me on the app and on here. Good week for futures. So my 2 futures took the flyer on the Bills 50-1. Everything's turning up Bills lately. They're even in play for the division now. And the Ravens, the 1 seed now. They have a tough schedule, but the Dolphins inexplicably losing that game with Mike McDonald turning into a turtle. Mike McDaniel, excuse me. They can now afford to lose a game. And they got the Niners, the Jags, and then just beat the Dolphins and probably have the 1 seed. So good week for the futures, but that can change week to week. So it should be a good finish here to the NFL season. Let's get on to week 15.
Yeah, I like to call it the witching. It's like the witching hour of the NFL season. Everything just starts turning around this time. You always see a couple of those crazy upsets, playoff odds shifting. So yeah, it's gonna be good. And I don't know if Thursday night will be good, but we're gonna talk about it anyway. So let's kick things off with the Thursday night football preview. So we got the Chargers at the Raiders. Raiders favored by 3. The total is 34, and that's because Justin Herbert out for the season with a thumb injury. So Easton Stick is going to start at quarterback for the Chargers, and then Aiden O'Connell, I guess, is going to start, but it sounds like he's on a short leash, or maybe they'll bench him out right before the game. There's just a lot of uncertainty in terms of just what you're going to get out of these quarterbacks in this spot. But I will say this, right now you have Aiden O'Connell, who might get benched by the time people are listening to this, laying 3 points when they lost 3-0 last week. Their defense gave up 3 points and they still couldn't cover. So, I mean, that's just 2023 NFL in a nutshell. You're laying 3 points when your defense gave up 3 points and you couldn't even cover or win the game. So I really want no part of this. I think it's Chargers or nothing, because you just got to take the points with, it's just 2 backup quarterbacks essentially. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, unbettable game. But week 15, Easton Stick versus, if I had to guess, Brian Hoyer. Except they don't want to play Jimmy G, because if he gets hurt, they owe him $11 million. Yeah, I mean, if it was 3.5, maybe consider Easton Stick. But yeah, week 15, Easton Stick, Brian Hoyer, Thursday night game with no playoff implications. Absolutely not. Unbettable game. Keep an eye out for Kerner's props on the Action Network app.
Let's get into the week 15 Sunday six pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday six pack.
All right, so congratulations again. You finally got a couple points up, 52-50. You're in the lead, and I'm first this week, so I'll start us off with the first pick of the week 15 Sunday six pack. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals. And I've talked about this on this pod. I've talked about it on our happy hour show. And this year, it's just been backup quarterbacks pitted against each other time and time again. And a lot of uncertainty. It's tough. It's just tougher to handicap these matchups in general because, you know, everyone has their opinion of, okay, this quarterback's worth this much to the spread and this and that. But at the end of the day, it's a projection. And it's a lot of times based on limited sample sizes for the backup or sample sizes that aren't really relevant. Because Nick Mullins has made a lot of starts in this league, but most of them were in the Shanahan offense, which is kind of completely different. But I will say this, you know, Jake Browning, now you're talking about he's laying not even just 3, but 3 and the hook here. This is when I think you want to fade these kind of teams and quarterbacks. And because Cincinnati could feasibly still win this game and not cover if you're getting 3 in the hook. So love the spot here. But I do think that when you look at these two teams, you have 2 backup caliber quarterbacks with decent offensive weapons around them. You know, even if Justin Jefferson doesn't play for Minnesota, you still have good weapons for them. You still have decent left tackle and all that good stuff. So when it comes down to for me is then who's got the better defense? And that answer at this point, we're in week 15, I think it's clearly Minnesota. It's no longer just, oh man, Brian Flores, you know, can't believe he took like a league worst defense and made him respectable. Like this defense is playing well. And you know, they took care of business last week, shutting out the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me, and Aiden O'Connell.
4th in EPA per play on the season now.
Yeah, as I was about to say. So they're 6th in DVOA, which of course adjusts for strength of schedule. Top 7 against both the run and the pass. Whereas Cincinnati, and you've been on this pretty much from the jump of the season, just kind of talking about this Cincinnati defense was worrisome and had some concerns and probably wasn't going to get anywhere close to respectability that they, you know, were at when they made that playoff run a couple years ago. So 25th in DVOA, below average against both the pass and the run. And that's a 19 spot difference, 6th and 25th on defense. I don't think, even if Brown he looks pretty solid out there. Probably not as good as the numbers because he's had a couple of multiple deflected balls get caught by Chase. He's also had a bunch of run after the catch, just explosions by Chase, and then Chase Brown. So dudes named Chase essentially are just kind of yakking it up for him. So that tends to regress. And you're also going to get, I think, the toughest challenge, not only just by the numbers on defense, but this Brian Flores defense for a quarterback making his 4th start, just so many exotic looks. Usually when you get a blitzing defense, you're playing a lot of man behind it. Minnesota is doing a lot of zone blitzing, and they also rush 3 and mix in some of that. So I just think it's going to be one of these spots where you might see a backup quarterback who is having a lot of success come back down to earth a little bit, kind of like we saw with Josh Dobbs when he started. I think it was his 4th or 5th start. So I'm just buying low here on Nick Mullins, who at least we've seen him be competent. He's covered in both of his first starts with his, you know, new teams. Won his first start with San Francisco and then covered his first start with the Cleveland Browns, his only start with them. But first career, you know, averaging 7.5 yards an attempt. Probably a lot of that is a Shanahan offense. But again, you have decent weapons Hawkinson, Addison, even if Jefferson doesn't play. So give me the Minnesota Vikings plus 3.5. Saturday road teams too, for what it's worth. 62% against the spread over the last 2 decades. It's been about 100, just over 100 games played on Saturdays over that time span. So love the Vikings in this spot going to Cincinnati.
Well, that is, yeah, with the hook, I think that's the only play. It's amazing what Flores has done, because their roster talent wise is now, I think, is now worse than it was last year, just from a raw talent perspective. And it was bad last year. Top 5
pedigree wise, because I feel like they're playing well. Like, remember
it's
when
all scheme. That's what I'm saying.
We're talking.
The scheme bump is massive. For what he's done to that defense that was just lost. Remember last year, like Ed Donatel was like, I don't know, I might try to. At the end of the season, he was like, I don't know what to do. I might try something completely different in the final weeks. Like, it was a mess.
He gave Daniel Jones what, like $100 million? Like, that was essentially Daniel Jones looked like Joe Montana going against the Vikings defense twice. And that's pretty much why he got paid. And now this defense, we're talking about this defense as a top 6 defense. I mean, times have changed.
All right, well, bad transition with the road teams on Saturday, but because for my first pick of the Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Detroit Lions -4 against the Denver Broncos. I have been fading this Lions team incessantly because their defense is terrible. Goff's been outdoors a bunch, but now everyone's writing them off. I said this about the Bills about 3 weeks ago. I said, all right, that's the buy signal. This is the buy signal out the Lions. Look, and they've gone 4-2 over the past 6 games. Their 2 losses, they were -6 in turnovers, 6 turnovers. They turned over 6 times, had no takeaways, and went 2 of 10 on 4th down. So made it look a little worse than it was. But Goff's coming back home. He's indoors. There's just a massive difference. You also have a much better offense here. And if you remove the Goff outdoor games where he turns into a pumpkin, it's an enormous gap between these 2 offenses. I think Frank Ragnow will be back at center, which is big. So I think that you'll get a rallied Lions effort. This is where they play well indoors. And this Broncos team is on the opposite end of the spectrum of the Lions. This is a classic buy low, sell high spot. The Broncos have won 6 of 7. And if you look, I was betting them early in the season. After that Miami game, they made some changes on defense, schematic changes. They got a little healthier. Since they gave up 70, since week 4, they're 4th in EPA per play on defense. However, EPA per play, extremely impacted by turnovers, which are not predictive. Over that same stretch, if you remove turnovers and you also remove garbage time against backup quarterbacks, because you got to remember, this Broncos team faced PJ Walker after the Browns injuries. Last week, they faced Easton Stick. They faced, I also am not removing this, but they faced Mahomes with the flu. I mean, even Tank Dell got hurt. I mean, whoever the Vikings quarterback was at the time, everything is broken right for the Broncos lately. But if you remove turnovers and garbage time against just the backups that they face on early downs, which are much more predictive, since week 4, 25th in EPA per play, 30th in success rate. This defense has been living off of 4th down luck, red zone luck, and most importantly, turnovers. During their 6 games, so that their past 6 wins, they are plus 15 in turnover margin. They've taken the ball away 18 times and only turned it over 3. So there is massive regression on late downs and in the turnover department coming for the Broncos. What perfect way for it to come than the Lions, who their defense has been bad, bottom 3 since week 7. But this isn't a really explosive Denver offense that you have to be too worried about. And the Lions have been a bit unlucky. They're not as bad as they've been. I still think they're a bottom 5 to 10 defense, but they're not a bottom 2 to 3. They've been really unlucky over the past 2 months on like 3rd and longs, 3rd and forevers, 4th downs. So they have a little bit of positive regression coming, but I think this is just a perfect buy low, sell high spot on the Lions at home with Goff indoors where he's not a pumpkin. For what it's worth, Goff 30-15 against the spread indoors, 66.7%. Among 220 quarterbacks over the past 20 years who have played at least 1 game in a dome, he's the most profitable. Give me the Lions -4 at home.
Yeah, it's you've had a good feel for these teams, both the Broncos and the Lions this year, better than I haven't really been betting either side of that, but yeah, I think you make good points on that, and I think also that run defense for the Broncos, I think, is really exploited. The Lions can exploit most teams on the ground. I mean, they even had success against the Bears last week, and the Bears have been a very good run defense. So I'm kind of excited to see it all come together. Because remember, I had the line. I did bet the Lions when they beat the Raiders, and I think that was the game that caused McDaniel to get fired. But that was kind of sloppy. Goff threw a pick six. It could have been a much bigger game. They stalled out in the red zone, try to get too cute. I'm still waiting for the Lions offense to put it all together with, having everyone healthy, Jameson and Gibbs and Montgomery. And, you got Peoples-Jones started getting more involved last week. So, yeah, I think a Lions smash spot is coming. And if they can run the ball effectively and complement that, by getting everybody involved, yeah, I think they could definitely win with margin here. So the more I think about it, the more I like it. Okay, for my second pick and the third overall of the Week 15 six-pack, I am going with the New York Football Giants +6 at the New Orleans Saints. And I know the Giants have been getting lucky with turnovers. I think they have 10 their defense has 10 takeaways over the last 3 games on that winning streak, but it all is over. It's all just offset by the fact that I just don't think this Saints team should be laying 6 points to anyone. Maybe the Patriots are that's about it. This Saints team, for one, is still pretty banged up. I mean, I don't know who's going to be back. We're recording this on Wednesday and who's not, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries. They've been consistently bad. Carr says he's still hurt, even he's playing through it, but Carr is not playing well. Despite all their talent, they never seem to play as well as they should on offense. Even when Taysom's a full go, even when Kamara's been in there all year. But I look at this Giant defense and I say, okay, Derek Carr, you can bait him into mistakes. And Derek Carr, he's thrown a pick in more than half his games. He's fumbled in, I think, 5 out of his last 6 games. He has at least one fumble. So Derek Carr is going to make some mistakes against this Wink Martindale defense. And then on the other side, you have Tommy DeVito, who he's kind of like a punchline right now. But for what it's worth, I mean, they've limited his volume, but he's been able to be just efficient enough. And I think the Giants' offense is still trending up. So the Giants for the season, I mean, their offensive numbers are horrible because you had that phase where Andrew Thomas was out. You got all those sacks. You had the phase where Daniel Jones wasn't throwing downfield. So, DeVito, he has Andrew Thomas now. He has, I think, the 3 best wide receivers coming out of the bye. I like that they essentially cut out the rotation. It was just all Wan'Dale, Hyatt, and Darius Slayton with Hodgins in the red zone, which is exactly how it should be. And you have Saquon Barkley healthy. Andrew Thomas has been 100% of the snaps each of the last 3 games. So no coincidence there. The Giants are competent. So I just think this Giant team now is competent. And this Saint team is always ripe for letdowns. Derek Carr, in his career as an underdog, 52-44 against the spread. That's 54%. Respectable, even though he has a negative 0.6 differential. So it's kind of probably overachieving a little there. But as a favorite, Derek Carr is 19-37 against the spread. 34%, failing to cover by an average of 4.5 points per game. And as a favorite of a field goal or more, 9-26 against the spread. 25% failing to cover by 5 points a game. And then Dennis Allen, same thing. 6-16, 27% against the spread as a favorite. 2-8 this season. So I just think this is too many points for a competent, kind of feisty Giant team that's just has the things that kind of I think mess with the Saints. Saints play a lot of man coverage. DeVito and this Giant offense actually been pretty good against man coverage, far better than they have against zone coverage. So I do think the Giants have some matchup advantages in this spot as well. So give me the G-Men catching 6 on the road against a Saint team that I still just have no belief in.
Yeah, I mean, Faded Carr is a 6-point favorite. I'll never, push back on you too much, but I do just I think this will come down to the Saints' run defense has taken a step back this year. So they've been dominant in recent years. So can they get Barkley going enough? Otherwise, you'll be starting to ask DeVito to drop back on known passing downs, and then he'll inevitably take a bunch of sacks. So yeah, I mean, they've won 3 straight. They've had a ton of turnover luck. So I don't know if it seems like maybe the wrong time to buy, but it's the Saints team, which I don't really think is any good, and Carr is a favorite, so I can't push back too much. For my for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 15 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills -1.5 at home against the Dallas Cowboys. I have not wanted to fade the Cowboys for, I don't know, we're going on 8 weeks now. I've said I don't want to fade them. I don't have too many bad things to say about Dallas. They've been the luckiest team in the NFL with turnovers. They've had an easy schedule. They've done a lot of their damage at home, but I've loved their tweaks from an offensive perspective, what they've done schematically, throwing more in early downs, Dak using his legs. They've also figured some things out on defense in the post-Diggs world. I still really like this Dallas team. I also really like this Buffalo team. These are 2 top 5 teams. I'm top 5 in my power ratings. 2 of the teams that I think can win the Super Bowl. I am just going to trust the spot here, and the more desperate team at home. The Dallas team going outdoors. Not going to be easy outdoors in front of this raucous Buffalo crowd in Buffalo in December. And look, this Buffalo team, for what it's worth, I'm going to jinx myself, but I'm 9-0 betting Buffalo sides on this podcast this year. And I would bet them early in the year a couple times. I faded them basically every week after those defensive injuries. And then now I bet them every week because I said, oh, now the market has bottomed out. And by the way, what's happened since then? Well, they added Rasul Douglas, who's been great. They needed that. You go from no star corner, no stud corner, to having Rasul Douglas. Allows you to do so much more. McDermott also made some schematic tweaks. And then also, naturally, you have all these new guys because you lost Milano, you lost Daquan Jones, you lost Trout. You have all these new guys with increased playing time, more responsibility, more snaps. Now, after 5 or 6 games, guess what? You get more comfortable. You're going to improve over time. So the defense just has improved overall. And Josh Allen is playing at a different level. He is playing as well as any quarterback. Dak's right up there too. But Allen and then this Joe Brady. Joe Brady's been great as the new offensive coordinator. So I'm going to trust the spot. Dallas off that huge win. They've won 5 straight. For what it's worth, over the past 20 seasons, underdogs in December or January that have a winning percentage of at least 75%, 29, 49, and 2 against the spread, 37.2%. And if they're on a multiple game winning streak, as Dallas is, 16, 37, and 2 against the spread, 30%. I think this is probably at the top of the market for the Cowboys. I'm going to trust the spot, the home crowd, Allen, to get it done. Give me the Buffalo Bills. -1.5 to keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's definitely Bills or nothing at this point. But it was funny because you probably get a better number if Kadarius Toney doesn't line up offside, but then you also lose that bet last week. So I think still getting the, it's kind of the best of both worlds.
But I have a future. I have a future though too.
Yeah,
so I needed that.
And it's best of both worlds because you're still only laying 1.5 in this spot.
Dallas also rolled Philly, which didn't hurt the Bills number.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Dallas would have lost, then Bill. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think anything under a field goal here is good. No trash to the Cowboys. They've been a little lucky with turnovers, like I said. They've done a lot of their damage at home. Their schedule's been easy. But after that big win over the Eagles, I'm trusting the more desperate team at home than Josh Allen. Josh Allen, for what it's worth, this is when you want to back him, elite, just an elite quarterback as an underdog or favorite of less than a field goal, 21-9-2 against the spread since his first month of the his rookie season, 70%, covering by 5 points per game. So give me the Bills.
All right, for my third and final pick, the 5th overall of the Week 15 6-pack. Speaking of when to back them, we're going with the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 2.5. Probably won't get the 3 unless Watt and or Highsmith ruled out because they're in concussion protocol. I think they'll play. I think
they were practicing today, and then concussion protocol late in the year doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key is, if you get a practice in, that's a part, like a step in the protocol, then you have to practice in order to clear protocol. So,
but also I think teams are a little more lenient late in the year when the games are a little more lenient.
The quote unquote air quote independent neurologist. It's like, so I was reading the protocol rules, and I definitely see how these things get fudged, because it's like, okay, the team physician has to clear them from after they practice. The team physician has to clear them, and an independent neurologist hired by the team. So it's like, is that really an independent, neurologist then, or is it just a hired gun that they're probably paying really well? So when they have a quarterback or a key defensive player like a TJ Watt, he gets the clear. But either way, I mean, the average is the median, is 9 days missed. But that's usually because, it's just how the math works out. But remember, the Steelers had a long week because they played on Thursday night last week. Last week. So buy and low. I mean, not low, because the Steelers are still number 2 in our luck rankings. But finally, there's a time to buy back in on this team, because the Colts are number 3 in luck. The Colts, and you said it last week, this is just as fraudulent team as the Steelers, I think, maybe even more so. And I'm getting points in a spot that's just been proven over and over again that the Steelers get up for. I mean, the sky is falling. They lost the first team ever to lose above 500 to lose to 2 win teams in a row. Ben Roethlisberger just came out and said Steeler tradition is dead. It's
extra rest, some extra rest here too.
Yeah, it's just perfect bulletin board material for Tomlin to get these guys up. And by the way, this is kind of the spot I've been targeting all year, just regardless of, the teams involved. It's just when you have a backup quarterback laying points against another backup quarterback, everyone wants to think about the underdog as like, oh yeah, he sucks. Yeah, obviously Mitch Trubisky's not good. He can't even beat out Kenny Pickett. We know this, but Gardner Minshew's not good either. Gardner Minshew, his 4.8% turnover worthy play rate, bottom 5 among 40 qualifiers at quarterback. Only one of the other 4 is starting, and that's Desmond Ridder, and he also got benched. He just happened to get inserted in the lineup because the guy he got benched for was even worse, and I think got hurt. So, this is what the level that Gardner Minshew is playing at. You look at pass success rate this year. Trubisky, 50%. Kenny Pickett, 40%. Last year, Trubisky, 46%. Kenny Pickett, 44%. So it's ugly, but long term, it's not really much of a drop off between the two quarterbacks. And again, you have one side, the underdog side, with the better defense. Pittsburgh's 7th in defensive DVOA, 8th against the pass, 11th against the run. Indianapolis is 14th, 16th weighted, so they're trending down, more middle of the pack, and really bad against the run. So maybe it's still, that can help the Steelers, because they do need to run the ball. I don't think you want to have either of these quarterbacks dropping back a ton in this thing, but more than anything else, this is just a spot where Mike Tomlin, time and time again, has found a way. 55-30 with 3 pushes as an underdog against the spread, 65%. As an underdog off a loss, 21-10, 68% against the spread. As an underdog without Ben Roethlisberger, so any other quarterback starting for Pittsburgh besides Big Ben, with Tomlin coaching as an underdog, 23-10-3, 70% against the spread. And Tomlin as an underdog against an opponent with an equal or better straight up win-loss record, which the Colts do have, 38-15-1. So it's really just a Tomlin spot. You haven't seen it come through in the app yet. I'm seeing what happens with the line. I think it would get to 3 if one of the key defensive players ruled out. I'm still betting it there, but still like it at 2.5. Either way, I expect Pittsburgh to win this game. And just when you're kind of counting them out and leaving them for dead, that's exactly when Pittsburgh voodoo strikes again. And it's the perfect foil here, because you have a team that's been just as lucky as the Steelers now at this point, number 2 and number 3 in our luck rankings behind Philadelphia. So give me Pittsburgh plus 2.5 at the Colts.
Yeah, like it. The Colts are a fraud, and this is a classic Tomlin spot. So yeah, I do think that Highsmith and Watt are going to play, or at least one of them, since they practiced today. But obviously, if both out, that would hurt. But I don't think that's going to be the case. And this Colts defense is just terrible. I don't think I have no difference between Pickett and Trubisky from a power ratings standpoint. So that doesn't matter. Classic Thomas spot, extra rest doesn't hurt here either. So I like it. For my third pick in the 6th overall of the Week 15 Sunday 6-pack, we go with the Chicago Bears plus 3.5 at the Cleveland Browns. This is, I should say, my 3 picks. You just talked about them. This is good to minus 120. We record this and then it comes out a couple hours later. Then you might be listening to it 2 days later. Minus 120 is fine here. I would bet the line's up to minus 5.5. And people always ask this. And then I would bet, what was my other bet? The Bills up to minus 2.5, which I already said. And then I agree with if you want to go through yours real quick, I agree with you. Wait to see on the Steelers, the news. Like if it goes down to 2, it's not that big of a deal. Then you want to play. That's probably because there's news. Everyone's not, people have jobs and are sitting in front of the screen all day. So, but if it goes down to 2, hit it. There's probably news out there, but wait to see if it goes through. If one of them are ruled out, or you could have a sharp group that likes the Colts that hit it. And then, you have the Bengals.
Yeah, no, the Vikings.
I would buy that
to
minus 120. I would buy the hook up to minus 120 there. And then what was your other game?
And then the G-Men, for that one, obviously,
I don't think it's going to go to 7, right?
It's not going to go to 7. I have it closer to 4. So, I would, in those dead numbers, I personally would still bet it, but 6 is a key number. So, if you don't
want it to go down to 5.5, that could matter. And I don't think it's going to go to 7.
Yeah, so that definitely bet that one now. If it's out there, I would say the Steelers are the one where I have it pretty much a pick 'em. So I'm not in any rush. I'm just trying to get the best number. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you miss it. Like I think you said you got it from your computer once and you just missed a number. It's happened to me before, but I'll take my chances here because I have that's my biggest edge is the Steelers in terms of just the raw numbers. But taking a 2.5 for the contest, I rather just take the 6 and with the Giants and the 3.5 with the Vikings. But in terms of just straight up projection, I do have a considerable edge with Pittsburgh. So, but yeah.
Okay. So, getting back to the Bears, my third and the final pick of the 6-pack. I had never played the Bears for years. Now I'm playing them. This is the third time in 4 weeks that I'll be betting them. This is a team on the upswing, also playing just with house money, nothing to lose. All the pressure on the Browns here. I think the Browns get too much credit for that game last week. I bet them. I expect them to win. The Jaguars were beat up on a short week. It was a great spot. Joe Flacco still still has a rocket arm. He's still a 38-year-old statue. Now behind an offensive line that lost its 3rd starting offensive tackle for the season last week. That's massive. They're under their 4th and 5th string tackle. They also, Ethan Pochus, their center, got hurt. You don't talk about a team that's banged up. Ford at running back, most really the defense. You lost your starting defensive tackle, Maurice Hurst. He matters. He's out for this season. His backup, Jordan Elliott's in concussion protocol. Had another backup defensive lineman get hurt. You had Grant Telpett, the safety, go on IR today. Juan Thornhill and Denzel Ward. I think they're going to play, but they were out last week. This is a beat-up team. Meanwhile, the Bears, outside of Ngakoue, doesn't really matter. They're completely healthy. This Bears defense trending up. Since week 7, 5th in EPA per play. 1 spot ahead of the Browns. They're also 9th in success rate. And Montez Sweat, allows you to get a little bit more pressure. Jalen Johnson playing at an all-pro level, 26 passer rating allowed this year. He's been a top 3 corner this year. I hope that he gets all-pro honors. He deserves it, and the Bears really should lock him up to a deal. But yeah, the offense, even the Bears, and they also got healthier. They were dealing with some injuries early in the season. You can't really run on them, and now you're going to have the statue Flacco, behind an offensive line that might be down or will be down a couple starters. And on the other side, Bear Fields is playing better. He worked on some of the mechanics of his dropbacks. And what can he do that other quarterbacks have done that gave the Browns issues this year? He's mobile. Mobile quarterbacks that can evade this pressure and create plays have given this aggressive Browns defense trouble this year. It's one of the reasons why I loved the Jags last week, was because number one, I assumed Lawrence wasn't going to play. He did. And then I said, if he did, he wouldn't be mobile. Well, it turns out he was actually running around a lot. He was making plays. And that's why the Jags, put up 27 points in that game. We were just undone by turnovers and their defense. So yeah, Bears playing way too well here. This should be a low scoring game. And I think there's too much value in Chicago. So let's keep it rolling and go back to the well with the Bears one more time.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Well, I guess because it's 3 at MGM, is that why you didn't go with it for your first pick? I feel like this is probably the best one out of the 3 that you mentioned. Like, I think the Bears are probably the lie. I mean, Cowboys Bills, it's still Cowboys Bills. It's still kind of a toss up. And then you're weighing points with the Lions, but this is like the Bears probably win this game. I mean, Cleveland's that banged up at this point.
I like all 3. I like all 3 equally. So I don't. Okay. It was random.
Oh, got you. Okay. Yeah. So this is another one of those weeks where you have a lot better quarterbacks than I do. You have Josh Allen, you have Justin Fields, and you have Jared Goff. I have Tommy DeVito, Nick Mullins, and Mitch Bortles. So yeah, it's ugly. It's week 15, but that is going to be our 6-pack. Buffalo -1.5. Detroit -4, and Chicago +3 for Stuck. I got the Minnesota Vikings +3.5, the Giants +6, and the Steelers +2.5. For this week's Coach's Pep Talk, got to go back to our boy, NFL Films legend, John Facenda, reading a poem by Rudyard Kipling.
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 impostors just the same, if you can make one heap of all your winning and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
I'm going to dedicate this to those backup quarterbacks, because you don't really need the luck Stuck. I mean, you got legit quarterbacks. I got DeVito, Mullins, and Trubisky, or Bortles, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, we're gonna dedicate it to that. But love Facenda. Could listen to him talk all day about whatever.
Yep, he's the best. I'm gonna write down your 6-pack quarterbacks here, and then keep it near the computer, and we'll see if anyone will ever top DeVito, Bortles, Mullins. That'll be, let me write down week 15, 2023. This will be the new leader in the clubhouse for
it's like
for one of us to reach.
It's no Beamer, Benz, or Bentley. I guess DeVito, Bortles,
0% chance any of them are starting next year. So that
it could all be benched this week.
Yep.
Literally
during the first
you could get Tyrod Taylor, Jaron Hall, or I guess Dobbs, go back to Dobbs, and you could get
Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, you have 3 viable option. Each team has a viable option to replace these dudes. But I mean, that's 2023 in a nutshell. It's because I'm also fading. I'm also, Minshew laying points, fading. Who else am I? Derek Carr.
Browning.
Browning, and then Derek Carr, who's still value. He's probably the worst one of the bunch because they're paying him a lot more money. But
I'm going up against Dak, Russ, and who else? Dak, Russ, and Flacco. The most elite of them all. All right.
Super Bowl winning quarterback Joe Flacco.
Super Bowl MVP.
Exactly.
Quarterback Joe Flacco.
Yep. All right. Let's get into our favorite total of the week. Last week we both had that Bucs Falcons total that went over pretty easily. Though I think there was a time there was like a couple of missed field goals, something
missed 2 field goals.
Yeah.
And that might cost us Falcons plus 400 to win the division.
I know. I mean,
sickening.
It was like I wasn't totally mad because I did talk up Cade Otton a lot this week because it's like you needed like a dart throw tight end or something. Falcons are terrible against tight ends, but yeah, it's probably the only positive because I would have preferred the Falcons hold on to it. I mean, they did. You wasted a 350-yard game from Desmond Ridder. Jesus,
unbelievable.
Yeah. So what do you got? What do you got for this? I'm
gonna go with Washington. I'm gonna go with the Commanders, Rams over. Always do what the lines are when we're doing this. I did bet 49. It just was 49. Now it's 50. Still like it at 50. I think this, just like last week, the total is 39. I thought it should be 42. I think this should be 52. The Washington defense is horrendous. It's the worst in the league by any metric that you look at. But since they traded their edge rushers, look, we've seen what Montez Sweat has done for the Bears. See what Chase Young's done for the 49ers. They have no edge rush. Kind of decent against the run still because they have 2 really good interior defensive linemen, and their linebackers who are bad in coverage are decent against the run. Guess what? That's probably going to lead to McVay throwing the ball a ton here because Stafford and those healthy receivers now, and not under any pressure, is going to absolutely cook this Washington defense that has given up 45 points in back-to-back weeks. If you remove the Patriots game, over their past 5 games, they've allowed 37 points per game. I mean, this defense has no answers. Other side of the ball, the Rams defense, bottom 10 unit, not anything special. Washington should get its points here. They also should be playing in comeback mode, just chucking it all around. And Sam Howell's taking a ton of sacks earlier this season. Still a bit of an issue, but he's basically cut that in half. And one of the reasons is they took Gates out of the lineup at center and put Larson in there. It's kind of stabilized things a bit. But, this should be a shootout. I think the Rams are going to come out. They usually play fast early on. They'll build a lead. They should just score well, and they're going to pass a lot. So you're going to see heavy, heavy pass frequency based on the matchup. I just don't know how Washington will get any stops. Then this Rams defense isn't anything to write home about. I think because of the suppressed scoring environment, I think that was one of the reasons why indoors last week there was a 39 with a Falcons Bucs game. You're getting some value on some of these overs. I just don't think there's going to be many stops. Like there's no reason the Rams shouldn't get to 30 plus. Like everyone has been on this Washington defense that has a pulse. And so I think I'll call this 31-20 at the minimum. But the Rams have a shot to get to 35-38 here. And Washington get to 24-28. I think this is a shootout.
Yeah, this one really sticks out to me. I think Cooper Kupp is finally fully healthy, even though he wasn't always on the injury report. You could tell he wasn't fully healthy early in the year. And Kyron Williams being back. Sean McVay is, I think, just very particular when he kind of builds his offense out and decides what he's going to do in his whole scheme. And when he has everybody, that's why he doesn't really take guys out. I mean, most of the Rams starters just play almost every snap. And so when everyone's healthy, that's when this Ram offense starts humming. And last 3 weeks, Stafford shredded the number 1 pass defense in DVOA for 3 touchdowns and no picks, and the number 2 pass defense DVOA for 3 touchdowns and no picks. Ravens and Browns in back-to-back weeks. So
and now he's got 32?
Yeah, now he's got 32. So it's a smash spot. I'm gonna go the complete opposite. I'm gonna go Falcons, Panthers under 35. And I just like to buy, or I like to sell high on the Falcons scoring points because their home road splits are so drastic. And this has been, I mean, it makes some sense because they do play indoors. Desmond Ridder, just for his career, I mean, you even go back to college, high school, always been a better quarterback at home, and not as good on the road. For his career in the NFL, at home, 7.6 yards in attempts, which is well above league average, 89 passer rating, 67 completion percentage, which is also above average. But on the road, 6 yards in attempts, a 76 passer rating, and he's just under 60% completion. So he essentially turns from like Matthew Stafford into Desmond Ridder when he's on the road. And you have rain in the forecast. The percent chance seems to be going up. It's still midweek, so that could change. But right now, look at that 66% chance of rain, winds upwards of 15 miles per hour. And we already know this Panther team. I mean, if the Panthers get a touchdown, they're doing well for themselves. I mean, I was on the Panthers last week, and that was just a mistake. I mean, this team was just incompetent, and they gave a free 7 to New Orleans on a punt. They got a punt block. That's not going to happen every week. So I don't see the Panthers doing much to aid the scoring in this game. Falcons have one of the top run defenses in the league. So, that's what the Panthers trailing game script, and both of their running backs are putting up big numbers, running the ball, big volume numbers. That's kind of where we are with this Panther team at this point. Division game, outdoors, and for what it's worth, totals 37 or below over the last decade. But once you get past 37, get going lower than that, now you're really starting to push the edges of whatever,
It's 2017, you lose.
Yeah. Like, so once you start getting lower than that, when books are floating like, 34s and 35s, that's really pushing the edge of like the projection model and the standard deviations and all that stuff. There's usually a reason for it. And it's because you can't go low enough. And to that point, unders 37 or less over the last decade, 30 and 12 to the under. So totals 37 or less, 30 and 12 to the under, 71% over the last decade, including 9 and 4 this season. And I think all of the 3 losses, I think they were last week. You mentioned that Jets-Texans game. So maybe people might shy away, but just don't see many points being scored. Remember, the Falcons put a 13-8 game against the Jets the week before that. I could see a 13-10 game. That's what I'll call it for this one. So maybe there's a push on the spread, but do think this under is going to hit Ridder on the road. Panthers defense getting better. JC Horn. Falcons can stop the run. I mean, everything just sets up perfectly for the defenses and the offenses. I mean, big letdown for Ridder coming off a 350-yard game. So yeah, under 35, Panthers Falcons. All right, so we got Rams, Commanders over 50, Panthers Falcons under 35. That's our totals. Now time for our favorite teaser of the week. If you are unfamiliar with teasers, it's just you get a additional amount of points to parlay with 2 or more spread bets. The standard is 6, so a 6 points. So a 2.5 point dog becomes an 8.5 point dog, for example, whereas an 8.5 point favorite would then become a 2.5 point favorite if you tease them down. You can Google Stuckey teasers to find out all of his philosophy and how he bets some really good stuff there. But Stuck, both of us 10-4 on the year on the pod on our teasers. Some of them sometimes we go with the same one. We're doing that this week. Not that many options. So where are we going?
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little unconventional this week. I just trust the Rams offense to get it done at home against this horrible Washington defense. And I'll pair that with a very traditional teaser piece in the Steelers, low total, getting across the 3 and 7. We talked about that game earlier. So give me Steelers and the Rams.
Yeah, same here. Not really many other options that I feel comfortable with and that you can tease through the 3 and the 7, which is really where the value lies for the most part. So Steelers up to 8.5, Rams down to -0.5 point. That's our favorite teaser of week number 15. We'll get into underdogs in a second, but as a reminder, the Action Network podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION, ACTION, when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, time for our moneyline underdog parlay. You've hit 7. I've only hit 3 this year, so you've been beasting on these. You're actually 7-7, so that's gotta be quite the ROI there. So where are you going this week?
Well, maybe I did bet them. So hopefully I'm right, because money over fandom, but for futures and my fandom, this would make me sad. But I'm going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I tweeted this out earlier today. I was going back over my season long stuff, and this year betting Bills and Ravens sides, I am 15-1, and the one loss, obviously, when in Cleveland, Ravens at Cleveland, when DTR got ruled in.
Oh, oh my goodness.
I think this is a good spot. So with the Jags, at plus 3.5, it went down to 3. They would have been one of my picks. I like them at anything over a field goal. This is a good spot to buy them. I think they'll be healthier on the offensive line, potentially on defense. Their run defense has actually been better than the Ravens' run defense this year, and there could be major weather here. You could have very high wind gusts. I think you'll get a desperation effort here from the Jags, and I think the Ravens' defense is still a little bit more vulnerable than people realize. They have had a very beneficial schedule as far as like who and when and the backups that they faced. So, yeah, give me the Jags here. I think this is a good buy spot on Jacksonville. I think there's a little bit of value here at home in primetime against the Ravens.
Yeah, I like this. I was thinking about them as well. Just it seems like one of those spots where, the Ravens, I mean, they're probably lucky to win last week. I mean, it took everything they had to come back from that one, and then they get the punt return. Seems like a letdown spot for them. And like you said, this Jaguars team all of a sudden desperate again after, there was a couple weeks ago, there was talk about number 1 seed, and now, it's
the division's in question.
Yeah, it's kind of shaky now, but it's going to be a fun last few weeks of this NFL season. I'm actually glad that everything it's like the witching hour. Like, it's perfect. It's like the witching hour.
I always mess with the playoff simulator. And someone tweeted me one that they figured out a way to get a 22-way tie at 9-8. So 22 teams finish at 9-8.
Whew, that's amazing. I mean, the way it's going in 2023, I wouldn't even put it past it happening. And we just get like all backup quarterbacks in the playoffs. Just like it'd be like the NBA in-season tournament or something. Like just it's like not even the real playoffs. It's just like some other thing that's happening. It's just, I mean,
I just hope we end up with the wild card weekend has a chance to be good or really shitty. So I hope we end up with, for example, I'd rather have the Packers and the Rams in over, another NFC South team and the Vikings. The Vikings just don't have a quarterback. And then in the AFC, can we get the Bills in there? Even the Browns would be fun. Because there's a chance you get the Colts and the Steelers and teams that I just think have no chance of doing anything on the road in the first round. So, but it will be a hell of a finish.
I mean, I kind of just want so many bad teams to get in that somebody there's going to be one to get to the divisional round because, that.
And I'm sure there'll be value on those teams and maybe from the betting perspective, but long way to go till we get there. Where are you going for your money on dog?
You talked about it already. Chicago Bears. I like them going up against this banged up Cleveland team. And I mean, we're talking about Joe Flacco at age 38, like you said, statue with a banged up O-line, laying minus 145 on the money line. I'll take a healthy Bears team with a mobile quarterback and probably some value that's just not being accounted for in the market because this Bears team, at one point the Bears were like the joke of the NFL, and everyone was kind of like, why did they even trade for Montez Sweat? Now Ryan Poles kind of looks like a genius. It's like you got Carolina's pick, so you're probably getting that top pick regardless. You fleeced them for DJ Moore in the process. You have the option of you're wide open in terms of what you could do at quarterback. Like you could keep Fields and draft a guy and do it that way. You could trade him for more assets, and you just kind of gave the team some confidence. And I think you got a better evaluation of some of the guys on defense now that you have like a pass, like some semblance of a pass rush. So I like what this Bear team is doing. So I'm going with the Bears plus 145. If you parlay those two together, Jacksonville plus 140, Bears plus 145, you get plus 488 odds. So pretty juicy. But at this point, make sure you bet them individually because Stuck, you've been hitting these a lot more. It's like my thing was the Survivor. Your thing has been these money line dogs. So I guess I'm just good at picking favorites that'll win for some reason. But good stuff on that. Now let's go to the best of the rest games we haven't covered in any other segment, but are still, as they say, meaningful to some. So we got the Bucs at the Packers. Packers are 3.5-point favorites. The total's 41.5. Questionable for the Green Bay offense are Christian Watson and Dontavian Wicks at wideout. Aaron Jones is like the new Shaquille Leonard. Like, does he even exist? I don't know. He comes in game and gets beat up and then doesn't play for another 3 weeks. Jair Alexander also, what's going on? Like, does the Packers just not want to use the injured reserve? Because I feel like they have guys who missed like more than 4 weeks who just continue to be on the injury report. But yeah, those guys are all questionable. Quay Walker as well. And then for the Bucs, Dean he missed last week. Vita Vea and Devin White. So those guys are, we'll see what happens with them. But 3.5, 41.5. I don't. It's kind of like, I guess, a buy low spot on Green Bay, but with all these injuries, I can't really do anything. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's a good line. If it was at 3, I'd look to buy Green Bay. I'm looking to this Bucs team. I'm not a buyer and was looking to fade them, but I would need a field goal. So if it gets down there, depending on the injury situation, that's what I'll look to buy. By the way, I didn't mention this for the Cowboys Bills game. Cowboys averaging 40 points per game at home, 20 on the road. Sort of like the Browns OD splits. It doesn't get talked about enough.
The Falcons too.
But they're averaging 20 points per game less on the road. Obviously there's small sample size. You get a couple games and skew it, but it's pretty crazy. But no, I think Green Bay is a good line. 3.5 is where it should be.
Yeah, but Green Bay's a pretty solid team. They obviously they're one of those teams that could beat anyone and lose to anyone, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, injuries are what it's going to really come down to. But this Bucs defense is, even if he's down Wicks and Watson, Jaden Reed's been playing well, Dobbs has been playing well, Tucker Kraft's been playing well. I could see Green Bay still winning by margin here, but tough to lay, 3 in the hook, coming off a loss to the Giants. But speaking of tough losses, Miami lost a tough one to Tennessee, and Houston lost CJ Stroud to concussion protocol. So we'll see about that. But right now, 2.5 is the line. The total 38. The Titans are favored against the Texans at home. Some key injuries for the Houston defense. Just when I was ready to buy in on the Houston defense, now they keep getting hurt. Houston I don't know what's going on. It's just guys can't stay healthy. But Blake Cashman rated as top 5 linebacker. Not linebackers aren't massive, but still a good player for their defense. He's doubtful. And then Tavir Thomas, who plays in secondary, some special teams. He was highly rated as well, graded out. He's doubtful. And then you got Stroud, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, questionable. Will Anderson's popped up in the injury report as well. So a lot of injuries for the Texans. Titans have been a lot better at home. But at the same time, it kind of seems like one of those chasing last week prime time with the Titans. So I don't know. What are you doing with this one?
I mean, is Stroud going to play? Kind of.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah,
So,
I mean, probably, like you said, they seem to be more lenient with the protocol later in the year.
Yeah, can't do anything with this game now, with his status and all the other injuries too. And Texas has been so explosive this year. But Collins and Dell were 50% of their explosive passing plays. Yeah. So, it's pretty crazy. You can't do anything here with all the injury uncertainty. By the way, I should have mentioned that the NFC South, I want to fade the Bucs, 11-25 against the spread versus other divisions this year, 46-79-2 over the past 3 years. This year, they own 3 of the 4 worst teams against the spread in the NFL. Bucs are 8-5 against the spread. I'm looking to fade them, but I need 3 with the Packers game. I forgot to mention that note, but nothing in Houston, Tennessee. Too much uncertainty right now.
And then you got this Miami team hosting the Jets, and Miami favored by 8.5 to total down to 37.5. I mean, I came up on the wrong side of that Jet game last week. I mean, injuries obviously didn't help, but I'm like, I don't know. Is it chasing to back the Jets here? I mean, I just feel like Miami, no Teron Armstead, most likely, ankle issue. Connor Williams, doubtful, top graded center in the league. Robert Hunt out, the top 5 graded guard in the league. Tyreek Hill, ankle injury, questionable, but it seems like he's might not be like 100%. If he's not 100%, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you put him back out there. I mean, they tried to do it to make sure they didn't completely blow that game, and they blew it anyway last week. But I mean, this Dolphin team would be this would be the Brian Flores Tua offense, like with all these guys hurt. So I mean, should I be backing the Jets here, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's Jets or nothing, but I mean, the spot is Miami. Like, they had that bad loss. The Jets had that win over Houston, but there's a couple things here with Miami. They are so hurt. Their offense, and Tua he's awful under pressure. He can't evade any.
He just runs into his lineman's back.
Yeah,
he's terrible. So, he's like, oh my goodness.
It is. You saw what that Titans defensive line did once those injuries happened.
And no Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, and so now you're going up against that Jets front. So it could, and if it's so big, is Armstead going to play? They could be down Armstead. The Hunt's going to be out, and Connor Williams is out. Yeah. I mean, that would be massive. Brutal. And if Hill's not healthy, Tyreek. This offense then is nothing. I mean, you just double Waddle, and then you're trying to throw it to River Craycraft and Braxton Berrios. It basically becomes like the Panthers. It's Jets or nothing. There's also some defensive injuries, like we saw already. Jalen Phillips, he's out. We saw the impact of his loss. Like, they just are completely reliant now on Chubb getting to the quarterback. They're down to like Channing Tindall at linebacker. Their safeties were out last week. Elliott and Holland. Holland's really important.
He said he has 2 sprained MCLs. Yeah. Like, he has both.
He says he's going to try to play. So there's a lot of uncertainty. If it got, I wanted 10 with the Jets. There's also the other thing I got to mention: winds. There could be 25 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds. This could be the highest weather impact game of the week. I don't even know who that would favor more. It depends if Tyreek's playing or not. I would lean under here with all the injuries that the Dolphins are dealing with. Still Zach Wilson and the weather, and then I would lean Jets. I also I'd consider Jets for my money line dog because of all those injuries and the weather. And if Hill doesn't go, the Dolphins literally the difference is massive.
It's just two defenses going against.
And they could be out there three offensive linemen. Yeah. So it's Jets or nothing. Small lean to the under as well.
And then we got the
Chiefs Pats.
Yeah, Chiefs Pats and then Niners Cardinals. So we'll go Chiefs Pats first. 9.5. The Pats are getting at home. The total is 37. Chiefs main injuries, Pacheco, Donovan Smith, Patriots. I mean, they've had a bunch of guys banged up on offense. You never know which receivers are going to play. I would personally lean under in this one. You got Sean Hockley reffing, always a great under ref, 31 and 8 to the under, 79% when the total is below 45, 20 and 5 to the under when the home team isn't favored, and 60% to the under overall for in Hockley games. So like that, but it's another one of these situations where it's, am I a week too late with, because the Patriots, they beat the Steelers, and then the Chiefs continue to look broken on offense in the most embarrassing type of ways. But I mean, at some point, the Chiefs are going to just not completely vomit away all their scoring opportunities, right? Like I don't know what to do with this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're dead last in EPA, giving up on penalties and turnovers. This is a perfect line to me. If it was 10, I'd consider Patriots. I don't trust this Chiefs team to win by margin. If it was 7, I would back the Chiefs. Maybe Chiefs are, if it gets down to 7.5, specifically 8, an interesting teaser piece. But I think between 7 and 10, perfect range for this line. Nothing for me.
Yeah. I do lean under, but it is the Chiefs. Like there could be some regression coming. They've just get led points away on just silliness. Yeah. But the Patriots defense is pretty good. But Niners at the Cardinals. Cardinals plus 13.5 at home. 48 is the total. Niners do have some injuries on defense. Travarius Ward, Eric Armstead. We'll see about them. Greenlaw's hurt, Oren Burks. So this Niner defense maybe not quite up to snuff, but Cardinals, I mean, Marquise Brown still didn't practice. I just don't know where this Cardinal offense is at coming out of the bye. If they don't have Brown and Wilson, they're 2 top receivers, which we're not exactly sure what's going on with them. But we're talking about 13.5 on the road, but then Kyler Murray, for whatever reason, has been terrible in the division at home, just 3-9 against the spread. Small sample, but Kyler Murray tends to do really well against the spread as on the road and be bad at home. I don't know if that's going to carry over to the new coaching staff or what. So another game that I'm really just don't see anything that I'm personally going to be doing with it. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, depending on I made this around 13. But with the San Francisco injuries, it's not a great spot. They basically just clinched the division. They have the Ravens next. So they're always good on the script, and this Arizona D is horrendous. So if San Fran has a couple of these D guys out, they get the ball first, go up 7-0. I'll entertain just throwing a little bit on Arizona live at a number above 2 touchdowns. Big backdoor risk here. I don't think the Niners have a lot of interest in blowing this wide open. And if they have some defensive injuries out, Murray can have some success. So, yeah, if it got to 14, I'd consider Arizona pregame. But I might, depending on the injury reports, I might just wait to see if San Fran goes up 7-0, which they usually do, and then look to maybe get Arizona live. But other than that, as of now, it's a pass.
Yeah, because all these elite teams, you're seeing it with the Eagles. San Francisco's probably gonna have one letdown-ish kind of spot at some point, with a sleepy spot where they could still win. Maybe this is the game. We saw Baltimore kind of do it against the Cardinals. We saw Dallas let Seattle get way too close. So
Dallas lost at Arizona,
huh?
Dallas
lost. That was way early. Now, but I'm saying late in the year, they usually it's hard for a team like San Francisco, just been so good all year, to keep rolling right through. So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Some team's gonna cover on them with one of these big spreads. And is this the last one of the year? Because you said who they got, Baltimore, and then who else they got?
The Rams left, and they're at the Commanders. That could be a sleepy spot.
One of those, probably the Commanders, the Rams. I mean, the Rams. The Niners always own the Rams, but the Commanders or the Cardinals, I would bet one of those two is gonna cover. So maybe maybe you kind of look at it from that angle, but yeah, it's
Ravens gonna beat the 49ers. Just to let you know now.
I mean, but that I wouldn't call that like a letdown in the same way. That's just
I didn't say it's a letdown. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, I mean, what are you 15-1? You said with Ravens and
Bills. I think the Ravens are going to lose this week, and then I think they beat the 49ers.
See that? All right. Well, that's on that note. That is a wrap for us. Thanks for listening. We'll be back here every Thursday all season long. You can hear more of myself this week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex podcast, and of course, check out the Action Network Discord server as well. Link in the episode description. Stuck is over talking college football on the Big Bets on Campus podcast every Friday morning. You can find Stuck on X at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.